Greetings, fellow men of culture. As always, I'm broadcasting live from the peak of Thundercock Mountain. One thing my dad always used to say while I was growing up is, if it feels good, go ahead and fuck it now. And I like to think I've lived my life according to that mantra. That's why I have 4 children with 5 different mothers. I think the same applies to video games. Hundreds of these godforsaken things get released every year, and while it's nice to play the shiniest, newest AAA release with strong independent women who don't need no man, there are dozens of games of high quality that maybe didn't get the attention they deserve. Like the stray dog that lives in my neighborhood that my wife won't stop calling racial slurs. Nobody cares about these games, but you should. No matter how nasty or mangy the filthy dog is, who's to say it doesn't deserve love? And maybe one day you can eat that dog for dinner. The same applies to these video games. Underrated sleeper gems that I think deserve a lot more attention, and your creamy, salty love. Enslaved Odyssey to the West is what you get when you cross Andy Serkis and Wukong, which I think is a brand of dog toy. Based loosely on the Chinese children's book, Journey to the West, you play as a character simply known as Monkey. Thank God he's white. After surviving some sort of prison airship crash, Monkey awakens to find he's now under the control of a woman named Trip by means of a magic helmet not unlike the one my son wears so he doesn't hurt himself. There's a termination trigger in this helmet that will kill Monkey if Trip should perish, forcing him to aid her in returning safely to her ratchet-ass neighborhood. Enslaved takes place 150 years after a global war has wiped out most of humanity, leaving machines known as mechs all over the place that now hunt down surviving humans. As Monkey, you can defeat these mechs with your big-ass staff that doubles as a melee and ranged weapon. When not in combat, Enslaved has some Uncharted-style magnetic platforming. Sometimes you need to throw Trip around a little to get past certain obstacles. I really liked Enslaved when it first came out. I enjoyed it quite a bit on the PS3, and the art direction for the environment still holds up well. The early game has you exploring an overtaken by nature New York City, with the giant skyscrapers covered in moss and trees growing up through the concrete streets. There was a sequel planned for the game initially, but it got cancelled after Enslaved sold so poorly. There was a decent PC port on Steam that includes the game's one and only story DLC for $20, so thankfully it's still easily accessible to play on current hardware. Arcane Austin is a contender for one of the biggest bed shitters in gaming history. The studio was responsible for Dishonored 1 and 2, both great stealth games, as well as the masterpiece that is Redfall, one of the most embarrassing live service games ever squirted out that nearly killed the studio. Before Redfall made them legends, they put out a super spooky first-person RPG type thing in Prey. On a research space station named Talos 1, some space banditos escape confinement and start smashing up the place. As a station researcher named Morgan Yu, you need to make your way around Talos 1 with the ultimate goal of destroying the facility and all of its dangerous research along with it, though this goal can change as you make your way through the story. One of the coolest aspects of Prey are the enemies. Space banditos are called Typhon, an alien species that are hostile towards humans, but research conducted on them has led to some cool advancement in mankind. Well, they're currently running around Talos trying to finger every person on board. I really like the Mimic Typhoid. They attempt to ambush the player by disguising themselves as mundane objects around the ship, such as office chairs, grandma's dildo, or garbage cans. So you better have a good look before resting your nuts on the lip of that coffee mug. Prey wears its System Shock inspiration on its sleeve. It's not a balls to the coffee mug first-person shooter. There's much more than shooting and looting. There are several skill trees that let you choose how to deal with enemies and access different parts of the ship. I invested in hacking and repair so I could fix up and hack turrets to defend me, as well as get myself into various locked rooms and containers. Dishonored 2 and Prey didn't end up being commercial successes for Arcane Austin, despite their quality. This is what led them to pursue the live service model with Redfall and nearly destroy themselves, which is a shame because Prey is a great, immersive sci-fi action game. You'll find a lot to like here if you're a fan of System Shock or Bioshock. The Game Boy Advance is not short on great RPGs. The Golden Sun and Fire Emblem games, tons of Final Fantasy ports, a crappy version of Tales of Phantasia. One of my personal favorites that I barely hear anyone talk about is Sigma Star Saga. Ian Wrecker is a puny human who goes undercover to infiltrate the Krill, the bad guys responsible for an attack on mankind. Gameplay is split between on-foot and ship battle phases. While on foot, Ian explores planets and talks to NPCs, as well as fighting local threats, acquiring new weapons, and smoking meth. The spaceship fights serve as the game's random battles. At any moment during foot gameplay, you can become molested by Krill and are forced up from the flat Earth to defend yourself. Ligma Star then becomes a side-scrolling shooter where you blow up enemy ships to earn experience points to increase your ship's stats. If you become crestfallen with the default laser, There are tons of data fragments hidden throughout the world, which unlock different properties for your ship's attacks. You can add status effects, change projectile size, or cause projectiles to explode, dealing AoE damage. Developers WayForward recently released an enhanced port of Sigma Star Saga onto PS5, Switch, and PC. So if for some reason you don't want to emulate the original GBA version, the game is easily available on modern platforms. The late 2000s were a crazy time for open world games. Consoles had advanced enough that studios didn't need to be the size of Rockstar to put out compelling, big game worlds with cars and hookers. Pandemic Studios cut their teeth on early open world games like Mercenaries for the PS2, before putting out one of their best games in my opinion, The Saboteur. Taking place in German-occupied Gay Paris during World War II, The Saboteur has you playing as an Irish race car driver named Jonathan Devlin, who fled his homeland after they ran out of dirt to grow potatoes. The aspect I enjoy the most about Saboteur is the visual direction and the atmosphere it evokes. It portrays a compelling rendition of 1940s France, with period-accurate cars and brick streets, but it's not just the environmental details that makes the game stand out. Saboteur makes excellent use of color and lighting to show the stark contrast between occupied and liberated areas of the game world. German-controlled areas are completely black and white, which makes the darker parts of the lighting even more depressing. Through completing in-game tasks, Sean can slowly liberate these areas, which will return the environment's original color. You can actually see the color spread back into the world in real time. I'm surprised more open-world games haven't tried something like this. Having something so noticeable as the entire color palette being muted in enemy parts of the map helps the player feel the pressure of being in a dangerous area, and moving through the areas that have returned to full color is a great indicator of in-game progress. General gameplay consists mostly of what you expect. Sean can shoot everyone in the face, drive cars around, and complete side objectives and outside of a main story mission. There's some honestly pretty lackluster climbing mechanics, which feels slow and clunky compared to Assassin's Creed, but it does give the game some freedom and verticality to how you approach your current objective. The Saboteur didn't explode the world upon release, earning some middling review scores and sales. And I think this could have turned out differently had EA not whipped their dick out during development. 2 years before the Saboteur released, EA purchased Pandemic Studios and proceeded to do what they always do. They cut costs at every corner and rushed development, forcing Pandemic to release the Saboteur with a general lack of polish and missing some of its more ambitious elements. Then, about 1 month before the Saboteur even came out, EA shut down Pandemic Studios, and all the executives went over to their office to press their ass cheeks against the windows as all the employees were leaving work for the last time. Saboteur was one of those perfect diamond in the rough games. It didn't have the budget or scope of other open world games that were out at the time, but its unique aspects easily make it worth playing through today. End-of-life cycle games tend to be some of the most visually impressive titles in a console's library. Chrono Trigger, the original Shantae, God of War 2, and African American. Black is a first-person shooter developed by Criterion Games for the PS2, a studio that had already put out some impressive games for the console with Burnout 3 and Revenge. You can definitely tell Criterion learned how to make some fine-ass visuals on the thing. Black released in February of 2006. A few months after the Xbox 360 was on the market, and more than a year before Call of Duty 4, so for a time it was the most visually advanced first-person shooter available on consoles in my opinion. As far as story goes, there's barely a framework here to give the player a vague reason to run around and shoot bullets out of your gun. You play as milquetoast white guys smoking on cigarettes, while retelling what happened on previous missions during an interrogation. What follows is a super linear, brain-dead, shooty bang-bang experience. That's all it needs to be, and it's great. Black is a short and sweet action movie FPS, with a normal playthrough taking maybe 6 hours, a little longer on higher difficulties and whether you hunt for collectibles or not. Black doesn't get brought up very often these days, which is a shame. This game had destructible environments before Bad Company 2, features visuals and sound that were way ahead of its time, and it's just dumb fun. Angry Maxwell is a game that so many people over the years have recommended me many times. One of my coworkers has brought it up to me here and there over the years, but I just thought he was gay. I bought the game during a Steam sale about 5 years ago for 3 cents, and until about a month ago I never played it, which turns out was a big mistake because I've been missing out. You play as the titular Max Muff Garbage, who gets jumped and butt-fucked by the bad guy Scabrous Scrotus and his gang of lovable misfits, and they take off with his whip. After stabbing Mr. Scrotus in the face with a chainsaw to no effect, Max meets a hunchback wastelander named Chumbucket who views Max as some sort of godly saint. Max agrees to help Chumbucket collect parts for his sweet ride, the Magnum Opus, and they ride off together to take out Scrotus' top guys and build their car. A good chunk of the gameplay will take place on the road, with lots of vehicular combat in the open world. The Magnum Opus can be upgraded by scavenging parts of destroyed enemy vehicles, allowing you to mount a flamethrower and harpoon gun onto the chassis, as well as other weapons. Your car starts out as a rather flimsy jalopy, but as you slowly build it up, it's incredibly satisfying to ram head-on into enemy vehicles and blow them up should they try to get in your way. When on foot, Maxwell is equipped with his iconic shotgun, but ammo is incredibly scarce, so you'll be using melee weapons and attacks for the most part. The melee combat is nearly identical to that of the Batman Arkham games, with a free-flowing combo system and prompts above enemies' heads that indicates when they can be countered. I found myself pleasantly surprised with Mad Max. It doesn't break the mold in terms of open world design, but it nails the look and feel of the Mad Max universe. Game world is depressing and brutal, being made up entirely of hopeless wastelands, deserts, and caves. Mad Max is an underrated gem that deserves more love. It released on the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5, so it pretty much had no hope of being a huge success. Apparently there was complete DLC waiting to be released for the game. Publisher Warner Bros. Did what every big publisher does and just didn't let the studio make it available. Apparently the dev team tried and failed to convince Warner Bros. To change the game's release date to avoid competing with MGS5. So Mad Max was sent out to die, leaving it with cult classic status. Any game that shared a release window with Skyrim was pretty much guaranteed to struggle, like my pet gerbil trying to escape from the paper towel tube. One such game was Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, which released about 4 months after Skyrim, but even that close to Bethesda's kind of great open world RPG casts a giant dick-shaped shadow over any other games that are even remotely similar. Kingdoms of Amalur has an amazing story behind its development, featuring former baseball player Kurt Schilling taking a loan from the state of Rhode Island to fund the game, but the studio went bankrupt and cost the taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. You know a game with that kind of story is going to be good. And it is. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is an open-world action RPG that was originally planned to be an MMO, and the game's design definitely shows that DNA. Your created character defies all logic by coming back to life before being turned into hot dog meat, becoming the Fateless One, giving you the ability to run around outside the chains of fate that binds the rest of the world and slide your nose between sweaty ass cheeks like a credit card. After the tutorial and story introduction, you're set free into the open world to take on quests, explore dungeons for fat loot, and continue the main storyline. By far the best aspect of Reckoning is its real-time combat system. Every weapon type has a number of distinct combos you can perform by either tapping the attack button in quick succession, or by varying your button press time to change what attacks you use, as well as weaving in different abilities and spells you learn while leveling up. Your character archetype is determined by 3 main stats. Might is heavily melee focused, finesse is like a stealthy rogue stat, and sorcery is the spellcaster stat. You don't have to go all in one direction if you don't want to, creating a light-footed ice mage or a heavy tank man that can self-heal. Aside from your stats, you can further customize your character through skills, although these aren't all that impactful and mostly what you'd expect. Blacksmithing lets you craft your own weapons and armor, alchemy lets you brew your own buff potions, detect hidden lets you see up your own colon. Thankfully, the Kingdoms of Amalur IP was acquired by THQ back in 2018, and they've made the game available again through the Re-Reckoning edition. The stupid thing is nearly constantly on sale, so picking this one up for cheap is a steal. The Xbox 360 era was a golden age for cover-based shooters. Gears of War kickstarted its own little subgenre of third-person action games where every game world is littered with conveniently placed benches, rocks, and cars that are all the exact same height for you to take cover behind. This game design eventually became oversaturated and passé, which is what I think contributed to the very few people experiencing the masterpiece that is Vanquish. This game has every ingredient to be an absolutely stupid, over-the-top, borderline satirical action game. You play as Sam Gideon, a DARPA agent who has a Gundam-ass looking outer space armor called the Augmented Reaction Suit. This suit comes equipped with leg and back propulsion holes which allow Sam to power slide around the battlefield while shooting enemies at the same time. This mechanic alone puts Vanquish in a tier of its own among the tons of other third-person shooters available at the time. The fast pace of the minute-to-minute gameplay, mixed in with the bullet time mechanic, turns Vanquish into a completely unique experience, even though it shares many mechanics with other games. There's even a dedicated cigarette button that causes Sam to flick the butt in the air, which can draw enemy fire for a second. Vanquish was made by Platinum Games, a studio famous for some of the best character action games ever, including Bayonetta, which was already out when Vanquish was released. The Platinum salty secret semen sauce is poured all over this game. A short but sweet campaign packed with over-the-top set pieces and cheesy dialogue, and their signature scoring system that assigns your performance a rank, giving you reason to revisit the campaign to improve your score. Despite earning critical praise, Vanquish didn't sell very well. The game sold roughly 200,000 units across the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions. Luckily, Vanquish received a solid PC port in 2017 that also fixed a lot of the console version's poor technical performance. Vanquish remains one of my absolute favorite action games of all time, and I want as many people as possible to receive its blessing. Those are some of the most underrated games released in the realm of man. As always, I want to thank my channel members. I appreciate your support and belief in the channel. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.